The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
You are now tuned in to the PA Power Podcast, College Edition, featuring Mason Beckman and Tristan Warner. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Welcome in, wrestling fans. You are now dialed into the PA Power College Podcast. As Jason Bryant of the Matt Talk Podcast Network said, I'm Tristan Warner, joined by my main man, Mason Beckman, a.k.a. Beck Diggity, here on Thanksgiving, a little Thanksgiving edition of PA Power Wrestling for you guys. Mason, happy Thanksgiving, man.
Happy Thanksgiving, man. Good to be here, as always. What else would you rather do on Thanksgiving morning?
Nothing but talk wrestling. Let's be honest. That's all we do around the Thanksgiving table anyway.
That is very true. That was always my Thanksgiving. You know, you go, and so my dad's side of the family, we do a huge Thanksgiving with the whole extended family. It's a little smaller now that our generation, I'm one of the youngest cousins. Most of our generation has, everybody's gotten married, so, they're doing Thanksgiving with their spouse's side of the family.
Mason still holding out for you guys. Eligible bachelor, Mason Beckman, on Thanksgiving. Also, I'll go ahead and give a little shout out because he probably won't. Jason Bryant, as we said, the father of wrestling media, if you will, the Matt Talk Podcast Network, did his own special podcast interview with Mason that's floating around the interwebs right now, so go ahead and check that out. I haven't gotten to all of it myself yet, but just from the comments I've seen and from the reactions I've seen, I know it's a good one, and just knowing those two guys' personalities, definitely something you're going to want to listen to for an hour and a half. Not going to want to miss that one.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. As always, shout out to Jason Bryant for letting us do this podcast and for having me on. We got to do one together with him. That was he knows so much wrestling. Like you said, he's the godfather of wrestling media, basically, at least the way that it currently exists. So that was a ton of fun.
We're going to coin that phrase, by the way. We're going to take credit for that.
Yes, without question. And to go back to my point about Thanksgiving, it was basically like it was 100+ person gathering on Thanksgiving for my dad's side of the family. And every year, man, especially in college when I wasn't home much, it felt like I went through the whole day. So how's wrestling going? I would answer that question. I would go to the next person. How's wrestling going? I kept answering that question all day.
You also got a lot of, how's your weight? Can you eat? Can you eat this year?
Yes.
Answer's always no.
So getting into topics for this week. First thing's just a correction from last week. Nathan Burak, I talked about how Spencer Lee would be the first true freshman to wrestle for Iowa since Mako. Nathan Burak did wrestle technically as a true freshman, but he spent time at the Olympic Training Center between high school and college. I want to say it was a couple years. So you can count that. I personally don't. I guess, again, he is technically a true freshman, but by the time Burak stepped in the lineup, he was probably 20 or 21. So he had already gone through the process, the same kind of process that you would with redshirting and growing into a weight and maturing. So, the whole point with Spencer is Iowa doesn't often wrestle guys their first year out of high school. I guess that's a better way to put it, right? Not necessarily as a true freshman, but their first year out of high school. And I think actually they were forced to do it this year with the kid that's starting at 25. I don't remember his name off the top of my head. But the kid that's starting at 25 right now is a true freshman because that's literally the only other guy they have outside of Spencer. Spencer was just recently cleared to wrestle, for full go. So we'll see if he wrestles this year. My guess is that he does. They'll probably see how he progresses. If I had a guess, they'll probably see how he progresses and then put him in Midlands because that's an open. They'll put him in Midlands, see how he fares, and assuming that Spencer is Spencer and he competes at the level that we all expect him to, that he'll wear the Iowa singlet before it's all said and done.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Assuming Spencer does what Spencer does, we'll probably see him in that black and gold uniform by the time the season's over. And just similar to how Suriano did last year, aside from his injury at the end of the season, he was contending for a national title as a true freshman. So you would have to think Spencer Lee's right in that same conversation.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, I'm never going to put that on a kid as a true freshman or as a freshman period. you and I both understand how ridiculously hard it is to put yourself in that conversation legitimately.
Yeah, even by the time
to
you're a
compete.
fifth-year senior, much less a true freshman, 18,
Yeah,
19-year-old kid.
The potential is obviously there. I mean, Spencer, he's won world titles. He's won everything he could win to this point. So I think it's definitely possible, but I'm not going to sit here and say that it would be a disappointment of a season if Spencer didn't contend for a national title. But I think you're right. I think that if he goes out and progresses the way that you would expect and that you would hope in a room like the Iowa one, he'll be in the conversation by the end of the year.
Yep.
Which is all that matters.
It would be interesting to see how Spencer's how his style and how what's worked for him in high school translates to college too, just because he was so dominant in high school on top. He was so physical and so good with that bar and everything, and he would just work guys over. And not to say that he wouldn't be able to do that in college. I mean, look at Lehigh, the way he's who we're going to get to here in just a second, able to turn people. But it'll be interesting to see how when Spencer goes up against the guys who are also top level, not only on bottom, getting out and not getting turned, but also on neutral, where something that he didn't really have to rely on as much. I mean, he's still incredible on his feet. He's incredible from every position, but, he kind of seemed to make a killing off of top. And I don't know, it'll just be interesting to see how when he gets against these more physical, 22, 23-year-old guys in college, if he'll still be able to get those bars and crank them over like that, or if he's going to have to rely more on his neutral.
Yeah, and the most interesting thing to me is Spencer was such a powerful and such a strong kid in high school. He overwhelmed a lot of guys. It'll be interesting to see what his style ends up being when he's at a level where most guys, if not all, the guys he wrestles are on the same level power-wise. You know what I mean?
Yep, exactly. That's what I was kind of alluding to.
Yeah. Same kind of thing you said with seeing how he goes from, is he still going to make his money on top, or is he going to be on his feet, or what's going to happen moving forward. So, anyway, you mentioned Lehigh, outstanding wrestler of the weekend. Who you got?
I'm going to have to go with Lehigh. I mean, there was a couple good options here. As we said, there was a couple guys that really had a strong performance, PA guys, but Lehigh, just not only the quality of the win, but the way he did it. For those of you who don't know, he picked off, no pun intended here, he picked off Nick Piccinini. 10-9, I think, was the final in the Minnesota-Oklahoma State duel, which was pretty much a bloodbath, by the way. But Lehigh, down 8-1 after, what was that, after first period, after two periods, and ended up the first period down 8-1. And this is, like we said, Piccinini, who had just recently beat returning national champ Darian Cruz. So, I mean, this is a guy who's contending for a national title himself this year, at least putting himself in that conversation. And Lehigh picks top down 8-1, gets a 4-point turn, then a 2-point turn, and then ends up getting a takedown to win the thing late, 10-9. What a rally. And one more thing I'll say about that is how interesting Lehigh's epic comeback to win a match like that. This is the same guy that not even a full year ago, probably last February, had something similar, like an 8-0 or 8-1 lead over Thomas Gilman in the dual meet, and the complete opposite happened, where he just kind of, melted and died late in the match and ended up losing and getting pinned by Gilman late. But Lehigh flips the scenario here, gets the big comeback win himself over a top 5 guy.
Yeah, and that match is interesting because for a lot of reasons, right? So Pitch is up 8-1. Lehigh takes top. Piccinini actually gets through the first minute of the second period. They come back to the middle with 57 seconds left in the second period. Piccinini still hasn't been turned, so it's 8-1. What I just can't understand is why Piccinini tried to get out that much. Because and it's not just with Lehigh, with any guy that's really good on top, it's actually easier. You make their jobs easier to turn you when you really stress and try to get out. Because then, use Lehigh as the example, he's going to slide a boot in, he's going to plant his foot, and then he'll extend you, kind of split your body in half. He'll plant a foot, keep your legs where they are, he'll extend you, suck you back, and then you're in a mess, right?
Yeah.
I was
going to say, Mason, we talked before the show about this, how you said your example was AJ Schott. My example was James Fleming. We used to wrestle guys that were not only just really good on top, but guys that were like scary dangerous on top with especially with one particular move, like Lezak with that pullback. You had Shop's cradle. He had good tilts too. Fleming with his cradle, and also his little dive over the top thing, which has since been outlawed, I think. But, you know, when I wrestled him, it was the same scenario. Not that I was ever successful in this attempt of getting out of bottom or not getting turned, but he would lock that. I feel like when people think of Fleming and that move, they think of it as a choke. But from what I remember, it never really went across the throat. He kind of smothered your chin or your mouth and your nose at the same time. And he locked right on your face. So it was kind of like when you're in freestyle and you're getting head pinched, but people lock across your face and you literally can't breathe. That's kind of what Fleming's move was, if I remember it. You know, I tried to block that one out a couple times I wrestled him, but he would kind of lock across the face and dive over the top like that. And like you said, I almost feel like it made it easier for him if I tried to get out. The smarter technique, the guys I've seen who have beat him and have not been able to get turned. I remember Jason Welsh, specifically at NCAA's one year, Kenny Courts at PA State's one year. They just kind of clammed up on bottom and did enough to not get a stall call, but it was more like a freestyle defense where you're just leaning against it and trying not to go.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did with AJ. I mean, obviously I was trying to get out, but the number one priority is just use your head down there. Because that's that guy's best position. That's where they make their money. That's where, especially Lezak, I mean, he's good on his feet. But you're never going to sit there and really scout Lezak and say that he's this super dangerous guy on his feet, right? He makes his money on top. So did Fleming. So did AJ. Now, I think AJ was a little bit different because I think he was better on his feet than the other two. But either way, I mean, I know when I wrestled Shop, the whole thing was, especially if I had a lead, you know, when AJ took top, it was like, all right, you know what's coming. Use your head. If you get a chance, you know, to bump them and get yourself out, do it. But your number one priority is just keep yourself moving and keep yourself out of danger. You know, we went into that match, especially because you know he's going to take top. We went into that match knowing and basically accepting, like, all right, we're probably going to give up a ride time point if he takes top. Right? That was that match's version of an escape for AJ. Wasn't a big deal. Don't care if I give up riding time. Just use your head and continue to wrestle through the position on bottom. When you stress and you really, like, you go back to the Piccinini example, you're up 8-1. You don't have to score on bottom.
True. You just really have to not get turned, and that's exactly what happened. So props to Lezak for that comeback.
Yeah. So my OW of the week, Lehigh guy Jordan Cutler had a major decision on Friday night against Edinburgh. And then a huge win against returning All-American, number 4 guy in the country, Miles Amin against Michigan. You know, Cutler was losing that match with about a minute to go. You know, was hand fighting, putting a lot of pressure on. Amin took a shot, and I'm not sure if the stream of that match is still out there in the Patriot League network, but the re-attack Cutler got him with to win was absolutely beautiful. You know, one of those ones you couldn't teach it to a kid better. So Cutler wins. I think it ended up 4-3 because he gave the escape at the very end. You know, 4-3 or 5-4 on a ride time point. Huge win for Cutler. Huge win for Lehigh in general. That win over Michigan, that was one of those ones. They pretty much took him behind the woodshed, man.
Yeah, and not to take anything away from Lehigh, but was it me or did Michigan look like they had a couple starters out? I didn't think Michich or Beasley was in there. Were there a couple others out too, or is it just those two?
It was just those two. Beasley, I think, was there from watching the stream, and I think Beasley was in a situation where by the time it got to 97, it had gotten out of hand.
Okay, gotcha.
And they sat him down. I could be wrong, but truth be told, either way, so Scotty, who knows with momentum, especially with Mitchich and
really would have liked to see Parker wrestle Mitchich, by the way.
Parker's
having a heck
so
of
would
a year.
I.
He's going to be our podcast interview this episode, actually, so stay tuned for that. But a heck of a year he's having so far. He's already knocked off, 3 guys in the top 10, something like that. Mitchich, that would have been a really good one to watch.
Yeah, that would have been really interesting, especially because it seems like, you know, coming into the year, everybody seemed to think that Brock, Mitchich, and Gross had separated themselves at that weight. So obviously Scotty's already beaten Cade, and it would have been obviously a lot of fun to see how he stacks up against Mitchich. But Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll see that match at one point or another. I hope we do. They're both guys that really get after it. So, um, another new segment that we're doing this week, that I thought would be fun. I was watching the Lehigh Michigan duel, and I realized that they're doing challenge bricks in college wrestling now, which is awesome. Just because there's nothing funnier than watching a less than pleased coach chuck a foam brick at an official.
Yeah, and they're actually pegging him. When I was at the ODU Northwestern match, Storniolo, Northwestern's head coach, also a former PA guy, chucked the brick and it literally hit the ref right square in the back of the head while he was reffing. Couldn't believe it.
That is awesome.
Couldn't believe it.
That is awesome. So I figured we would do a challenge. Each one of us would kind of do a challenge brick of the week, look at maybe a situation that occurred in a match, a tournament, or something just in general that, we kind of want to throw the challenge brick on and question and discuss a little bit. So do you have one you want to start with, or you want me to roll into it?
You can roll into it, but I do want to say here on your outline, you have Austin DeSanto listed as the challenge brick of the week. I guess the only brick I would throw would be, did anyone even try against him at the Keystone Classic? I think he tech-falled everybody or just dismantled the entire competition. Where was the competition?
So here's my thing with DeSanto. I'm not throwing the brick on DeSanto himself, but what I am throwing the brick on is the hype that people are putting on DeSanto. Now, it's the same kind of thing I just discussed with Spencer Lee, right? People are throwing all these wild things out there about DeSanto, and truth be told, he hasn't wrestled anybody that's that great yet. Ian Parker's his best match, and Parker, as of yet, isn't a top 20 guy. So, yes, I get it. DeSanto scores a lot of points, but the guys he's wrestling from a Division I perspective, they're not top flight guys. The best guy he's wrestled so far was a guy that bumped up a weight and was a national qualifier out of one of the smaller conferences, last year out of Eastern Michigan. I think DeSanto is going to be really good. But you have these people, I've seen it. I've actually had people, text me and DM me on social media saying that they can see and smell All-American and national champ this year with DeSanto. And it's like, look, man, he's in his first month as a true freshman. And and again, he hasn't even had a chance to put himself in that conversation yet. It's not like he's wrestled Scotty Parker. It's not like he's wrestled Seth Gross. He wins the Keystone Classic, and the best guy he would have wrestled was Keener, who defaulted out. So DeSanto hasn't had a chance to put himself in that conversation yet, and I think people need to be careful about those conversations and the saying those things about a kid that hasn't really had a chance to prove that yet, because frankly what they're doing is they're putting a huge bullseye on a kid's back.
Yeah, that's kind of natural when it comes with any sport, though. I feel like, if you look at anything, you look at football or anything, anyone who comes in, whether it's a true freshman coming in college who was a top-rated recruit or a rookie going into the NFL who was a first-round draft pick, the society as a whole is always going to put that kind of expectation on somebody. And then I heard a conversation on the radio briefly when we were at practice yesterday. They're talking about Jared Goff, the quarterback of the Rams, and how everyone put this huge expectation on him because he was the first draft pick. And then they didn't even play him at first. And then when they did, he didn't do so well. And meanwhile, they're looking over at Carson Wentz, who went behind him and how well he was doing. Basically, they were just saying how, everyone had already kind of ruled him out already because he had that, a shaky start. But then this year, he's having a good year. It's kind of the same thing. DeSanto, everyone put this huge hype on him because of what he did in the postseason last year. And then, he comes out, he's looking pretty tough so far. And then he loses that one match to Ian Parker. And then you almost feel like you let the air out of the balloon and everyone's like, oh, well, he's, write him off then. He's not going to be as good as we thought. But, like you said, it's his first month of college wrestling, first couple weeks, really, of competition. If you look back throughout history, you look at the guys who end up winning it or placing really high as true freshmen. Some of them are, doing really well by the end of their season as a true freshman. Some of them back in November have some head-scratching losses. But, the progression, you have to let it play out. 4 or 5 months of a college season is a long season, and guys make a ton of adjustments, make a ton of development. That's what, their coaches are there for and their workout partners.
Yeah, so, my whole thing with DeSanto is don't put that on him. You know what I mean? Let the kid progress. Let Coach Azevedo and the Drexel staff and team, let them work with that kid, and I'm sure he'll get there. But something about like the highest pace in college wrestling and all this stuff. Don't overhype it. Don't put a bullseye on the kid's back right away. He doesn't need that. He's a true freshman. He's going to be just fine. You know what? And hey, I'm sure he will be highly competitive in March, but that's a long way away. And right now, putting more pressure on the kid and giving other guys more of a reason to be out for his head, it's just unnecessary. And they're also setting up this expectation again, the same thing I said about Spencer. Maybe, if he doesn't All-American or compete for a title at the end of the year, and to say a true freshman year was a disappointment, that would just be absurd. At least where he's at right now. So I guess my thing would be, don't set unrealistic expectations, because the other thing, and look, I'm a huge Austin DeSanto fan, but kind of the win that vaulted him into all these conversations was the Spencer Lee win, right? And the Spencer Lee win, he beat a guy that, as impressive as it was, but he beat Spencer on a blown knee. So I just think everybody needs to kind of take a step back. Let DeSanto develop. He'll be fine. He will be just fine.
I see you have Zeke Moisey listed too. I'll be interested to hear your challenge, Brick, on that one, because that's a guy everyone who listens to this consistently knows is one of my favorite guys in college wrestling. It was questionable how he would come back after taking a year and a half off after a pretty significant injury. Took last year off, and then he's back this year. And I wouldn't say he's having necessarily a shaky start, but he's had a couple losses that are uncharacteristic for him, being in the national finals 2 years ago. So what's your challenge, Brick, on Moisey?
Saddle up, pretty much. Again, he's a national finalist. He was a guy that, I want to say, took third at the Scuffle the following year before he got hurt and everything. And I'm sure it's not the simplest thing on planet Earth to come back after an injury like what he suffered with his elbow. And he's a guy that's kind of been plagued by injuries throughout his career with his elbow and his shoulder and whatnot. But he's a returning national finalist, man. And he's already lost 4 or 5 times this season. He lost 3 times in the opening weekend. He lost again this past weekend. None of which were to guys, no disrespect to any of them, Jake Gramacki and Taylor Lamont a couple times. But none of them are guys that you look at and say are national title contenders.
Yeah. Yeah, it has been a little bit of a rough start for Zeke. Hopefully he's able to shake off whatever it is that's plaguing him right now. But, like we said, it is tough to come back after an injury. I always think about, I had a couple significant injuries, but 2 of them came midway through my 5th year senior year. And I always thought about how, I never really understood how people could get a significant injury and then never be the same after. That concept never really came to my head. I just felt like you'd always, do your rehab, get your surgery, and you'd be good to go. But I always think about if I had, another year of eligibility, and if I would have came back the next year, how I just feel like my season, career, whatever would have gone differently. Because to this day, I don't feel the same. I don't feel the same push off my knee. I don't feel the same range of motion or strength in my shoulder. I understand now. Maybe it just took that happening to me, or it just took me getting older to understand how a significant injury like that can affect a career. I mean, it happens to guys all the time. We see it happen all the time. So I'm not saying that that's Zeke's fate by any stretch, but you never know if that's what it is or if it's something else.
Yeah, like you said, it's hard to say, man. You just don't know. There's too much going on around it that you just don't know. But so those are the challenge bricks of the week. Rolling on into the results of the week.
Let me start by saying we're already at Thursday. Our attention is focused more on what's coming up this weekend, but there was some significant results that happened over the weekend. So Mason, as we skim through this outline here, maybe just pick out some of the key highlights and we'll keep it condensed so we can focus more of our attention on what's coming up this weekend.
So, you got to start, and obviously it's easy for me to say this as a Lehigh alum, but you kind of have to start with the Lehigh-Michigan duel and the weekend that Lehigh had. So Lehigh beats Edinboro 27-14 without Darian Cruz and without Price. Scotty Parker pinned Corbin Myers in a match that he was blowing open. Myers is the number 10 or 11 guy in the country. And Scotty just kind of overwhelmed them and, frankly, ran him over and decked him in the third. Gordon Wolf, who I think that's the first dual meet he started. Wolf looked really good. He majored Austin Matthews. Matthews was the number 9 guy coming into that dual meet. Wolf, I think, now is number 15, so it was a good win for him. Cutler had a major in that dual meet. And then the Michigan duel is really the one to dive into. Darian beat Drew Matton, who Michigan, they pulled the red shirt on Matton. So Darian beats him, I think, by 7. Scotty didn't get to wrestle Michich, but gets a second fall of the weekend against their backup. Ian Brown beats Alec Pantaleo, a returning All-American. Cutler beats Miles Amin. Price beats Dom Abinator. And then Adam Kuhn beats Jordan Wood at the end of the dual meet in a match that was pretty competitive. So just a great showing for Lehigh across the board.
Yeah, that's a that's a testament to how tough Lehigh is right now, but also I would have to say that's a testament to their coaches and their workout partners, because guys like Gordon Wolf, like a couple of years ago, I would have said, who is Gordon Wolf? And I don't think I'd be alone in that. And now, the guy goes to NCAAs a couple of years ago, knocks off Alex Meyer, has a pretty good tournament, and then now he's majoring Austin Matthews, who has been a top 10, 15 guy his entire career. I mean, that's impressive stuff. And then even like Price going up a weight, and he's already knocking off a couple top 5 guys. Like, Lehigh's firing on all cylinders right now. That's great to see for PA Power.
Yeah, man, they're rocking and rolling, and obviously it was exciting for me. I think that I've been saying it for a while that this team is so much better than people give them credit for. And there's a lot of guys on this team that I think are better than people give them credit for, including Darian Cruz, which is funny to say as a returning national champ, but I think Darian's better than people give him credit for.
Lehigh's deep, too, I'll also say. I mean, there's guys like Cole Walter and Cortland Schuyler, guys who were like PA greats a couple years ago who aren't even in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how the program has progressed. It's become one of the deepest programs in America. When you have at 65, Cole Walter, Gordon Wolf, and Drew Longo all, kind of as the triumvirate for that weight, that's a really good situation to have. You got 3 guys that are all national qualifier. Each one of them has either been a national qualifier or is placed at the scuffle. So, really good situation to have. Ian Brown at 57 had if you haven't seen the duel, the way that whole match played out, in the first period, Pantaleo took a shot, and as he circles up, Brown gets himself into an over-under and steps around into a Polish and almost pinned him, but gets a 6-point move out of it, made it stand up. I think he won 8-4 or something like that.
Explain to me what a Polish is.
You remember what Kevin Gadsden did to Snyder?
Yeah.
That's a Polish.
Okay.
That's what it's called, which was also hilarious.
Gadsden.
No, that's what I was just going to say. It was funny him saying, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to coin that to Gadsden. No, people have been doing that for decades. It's a Polish. Take it easy, guy. I will say the thing that Gadsden did that was really impressive that I hadn't really seen was the way Gadsden would step around, hook, and elevate the foot. But the premise of the move, the technique itself, again, if you watch international wrestling for sure, you'll see a lot of it. It's a Polish, so
it's
a
Polish, folks. Moving on.
Yeah.
Keystone Classic.
So, yeah, you want to go ahead?
I started off, we talked about Austin DeSanto, won 133. Pretty much major teched or pinned every single guy he wrestled. I think he won 26-12 in the finals. So, I mean, yeah, he's providing some illustration there that he does have a really high pace. He's clearly breaking guys, which is awesome to see, especially for a true freshman coming in after wrestling 6-minute matches in high school. Now he's wrestling 7 and clearly has had no effect on him in a negative way.
No.
Corey Keener would have been his toughest match. I think that would have been in the quarters or semis, and he ended up forfeiting out to 6th. So, moving up, Jared Cortez won 141 for Penn State, had a close, I think, 4-3 win over Tyson Dippery, who's now at Rider after transferring from Rutgers. 149, Zane pretty much does what Zane does, pins everyone on his way to the finals, and then won 11-2 in the finals over Northwestern's Ryan Deacon, who was a guy we talked about last week, who's been on that's a battle of guys who have both represented the USA on the Cadet World team. Deacon, I don't know if you saw that match, Zane. We talked about, or I just called you Zane. Mason, I don't know if you saw Zane and Deacon's match. I was 11-2. I mean, I guess that's about what I would have expected. I thought Zane might pin him, but like we said, Deacon's really freaking tough. And at least it looks like he at least was able to not get turned as much as most people do, or at least not get turned to a pin.
Yeah, Deacon impressed me, man, because Zane had to get a takedown literally at the buzzer to major him. And Deacon, it's not like he was just trying to survive the whole match. You know what I mean? Deacon was out there wrestling, and he really made Zane wrestle. He must be powerful, because that was one of the things. That's one of the things you see a lot with Rutherford is
he overpowers people.
Yeah, he overwhelms and overpowers guys. Now that's not obviously Zane's technique is
flawless,
a thing of beauty. And,
also, it could be just I didn't see the match, but just visualizing what the two look like. I mean, Deacon has to have like 6 inches on him height wise, so.
Yeah, Deacon's a big 49. And that match was at the end of the day, too, so I'm sure Deacon probably weighed upwards of 160 by the time it happened. So, but yeah, Deacon impressed me. Zane is Zane. What do you say, right?
Yeah, that's impressive for a freshman to go out there and, like you said, nearly keep a major away against Zane Rutherford, the returning Hodge winner, 2-time national champ. So, the big things will probably come for Deacon as the year comes on. Everyone's pretty impressed by him. 157, Jason Nolf pins everyone in a total of 11 minutes. That's what you have here. Beat Joe Veliquette of Penn in the finals. BJ Clagan took 6th in that weight after defaulting out. A lot of guys defaulting out, I noticed. Chenzo was not present in the tournament. Not sure what's going on there. But Chad Walsh won the weight class, and that would have been a very interesting match to see. So kind of bummed that Chenzo wasn't at the tournament, because I know Chad Walsh wrestled Nolf at least once or twice the year before. I think they actually wrestled in the national semis 2 years ago, but I don't believe I've ever seen Walsh and Chenzo wrestle. I'm not sure that's not to say that they haven't, but I'm not sure that I've ever seen it.
Who, Chenzo and Walsh?
Yeah. Did they wrestle last year?
Yeah, they did it. Yeah, at the Keystone Classic.
Oh, okay. What was the score of that?
I don't remember the score. Chenzo beat him, because that was Chenzo's first big win, like All-American caliber win. And it was every bit the match that you expected to be.
Okay.
It's all over the place. There were no rules. People rolled and did things that aren't logical.
It's a good way to put it. So yeah, no Chad Walsh, Chenzo this year, at least not yet. Might see that coming up later in the year. May Bethea for Penn took 2nd at that weight class behind Walsh. Mark Hall, Texan pins his way through 174, and Bo Nickel does the same thing at 184. And I think they both, if I remember reading the results right, they both got a pin in under a minute in the finals, like 43 seconds and 34 seconds, something like that.
Yeah, and speaking of Polishes, that was what Hall got his guy with in the finals. Went double over, stepped around, and decked him. So, kind of coming full circle there.
Yep. 197 was probably the big weight for Penn State, I would say. Once again, Kassar and McCutcheon meet up in the, semifinals? Kind of weird bracketing on that one, I thought. But, once again, for the third time now, Kassar beats McCutcheon 6-5. So, Kassar seems to be solidifying, at least for now, his slot in the lineup for Penn State at 197.
Yeah, for sure, man. Kassar, and he's a guy that people around the Penn State program have been really high on. To be honest, I don't remember Kassar as a recruit.
I don't either. I know he's Jersey, but that's about all I remember.
Yeah, that could just be the fact that maybe Kassar came in while I was still in school, so I wasn't really paying attention to it, because obviously Kassar as a 97 didn't affect me. So maybe that's why I don't remember him, but I know people have been really high on him, but he's had trouble staying healthy. Obviously, he's healthy right now. Good problem for Penn State to have. Kassar is obviously the starter right now, but it's a good problem to have when you've got two guys that are going to be top 5 in America at the same weight. And then Kutch defaulted to Stephen Loiseau of Drexel, who was a Lancaster Catholic, I want to say, grad. Defaulted to him for 3rd. Frank Mattiace actually took 2nd in that weight. That's who Kassar beat in the finals. Mattiace wrestling out of Penn now. Then probably the highest profile bout that took place in the entire event, especially with Chenzo not in the tournament. Nick Nevels beats Casper in the finals. I don't know if he rode him out, but I know he had a 2-on-1 tilt for the win, on top in the 3rd. So Nevels really has looked good on top so far this year. He rode Tanner Hall out in the All-Star dual meet, who was I think Hall took 3rd last year. Then he turns Casper to win this past weekend. So Nick Nevels out there shades Ethan Lezak.
Yep. Looking forward, we have a couple other noteworthy individual results here and dual meet results. We already talked about Ethan Lezak coming out of an 8-1 hole to beat Piccinini 10-9. Mikey Kemmerer out of Iowa, 157. As you put, Pounds, number 13, Clay Ream from North Dakota State, 17-2 with a tech. That's a pretty impressive win for Kemmerer. Chem Dog, pounding him like a dog, 17-2. Caleb Young making his debut for Iowa. That was their first dual meet, right? His debut. 3-0 day in Carver Hawkeye. Got a win over number 20, Andrew Fogarty, who's also from North Dakota State. Penn State dominated Binghamton 40-2. I mean, that's not a surprise there. Pitt went 1-2 on the weekend with their road trip. They picked up a win over Cal State Bakersfield, but lost to Wisconsin and Arizona State. I don't know if there was any individual bouts that were real noteworthy there, but that's about expected, I would say.
Yeah, well, Josh Shields beat Taylor Bramani 3-2.
That's right.
So that's really the main result worth noting in that whole scenario. You know, there were you can dive down deep in any one of those dual meets, but that was the main one, especially talking to Shields.
Yeah, Shields is definitely you can tell he's turned a corner this year.
I agree. He's that
he's
good.
kind of doing what I expected him to do out of high school. Like I don't know if you talked about it when you interviewed him or not, but he's the one my brother beat in the state finals. But that was a match I was very worried about, and to the second it ended, I still was, and I was super impressed with Shields. He was only a junior. He went on to win it the next year. And me and TC both know how good that kid is and how good, what kind of potential he has. And, he definitely had a solid, a redshirt freshman year last year, 9 seed at nationals, whatever he was. He had a good year, but I mean, we knew he was capable of a lot more than that. And I think this year he's really turning the corner and kind of showing people what he really is capable of.
Yeah. I mean, again, he's just that good. He went from being a 9 seed as a as a redshirt freshman. Being a 9 seed in general is really impressive.
Super
impressive. But this year, he's vaulted himself into
top 5 conversation, I would say, at this point.
Oh, without question.
Yeah. The Navy Classic also went down. Tyler Smith for Bucknell took 4th, had a loss to Alex Madrigal from Old Dominion. I think it was 11-7. I'm going to guess. I didn't see the match, but Madrigal is a freak on top with his grip and his tilt, so I'm going to guess that's what he hit to get that win. And he also lost to Cole Weaver, who is
Indiana.
I was going to say, I think he's a Michigan kid originally, but I wasn't sure what college.
That I don't know.
I think so, but yeah, Indiana. So he took 4th. Justin Stoudenmeyer had a really good tournament, winning 157, and I got to just throw in how is Justin Stoudenmeyer still in college? I feel like he's been around for 20 years. Maybe I'm mixing him up with his brother, John, but I mean, Justin, I know, wrestled my brother in the first round of states one year, and I know he was at least 1 or 2 years older. My brother would be like a senior in college if he was still wrestling right now. He's still in college, still winning tournaments, so good for him. Wins 157.
Yeah, and I think part of it is, like, he looks just like JM.
Oh, yeah, almost identical.
His brother.
He also went to Brown, which means I think you're allowed to do that taking a year off thing. So you kind of like maybe still wrestling. You're still wrestling in tournaments, but you're not representing the school. So it like the fans kind of lose track of if you're taking a year off or not. So that could be it.
That could definitely be it.
197, Jarrett Kasnick for American finishes a runner-up, 197, and then that's it for the Navy Classic, I think. You have here Mikey Labriola wins another Open, the Holiday Inn Open, which I didn't even know existed, but that's a separate topic.
Neither did I. I wonder if Chingy sponsored it.
We can dream.
That would be pretty incredible.
Us 90s kids can dream.
Man, if you won that tournament and you got to take a picture with Chingy, who is completely irrelevant now, I wonder what Chingy's doing.
Don't we all think of that on Thanksgiving morning?
Yeah, man. I should Google that. So yeah, Holiday Inn Open, it's a thing. Mikey Labriola is just killing it so far this year.
Mikey Labs got back to the lab and cooked up another title.
Oh boy. Wolfpack Open. So NC State didn't send all of their starters. I actually talked to a member of their coaching staff, and some of their older guys are guys that have a lot of wear and tear on their bodies. They didn't feel needed to go. So, unfortunately, we didn't get to see the Zach Earl-Kevin Jack match. But Zach Earl does win 141. Nicky Reenan beat the older Ballsack brother in the finals. So, Reenan, a Wyoming seminary graduate, now at North Carolina State, Ballsack at Pitt. Then Dustin Conti won 197 for Clarion, so that's a good win for Conti. The Black Knight Classic at West Point. Andy Schutz, who is a what was it? Is he a Wyalusing?
He was my brother's teammate at Bloom. I know that, but I can't remember what high school he's from.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It was the same one because Steve Middich was his high school coach.
Wyoming Valley West. That's where Middich went before he
There
transferred.
you go. Before Northampton. Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay.
So Wyoming Valley West, native, Schutz, still at Bloom. He was actually the last dual meet I ever wrestled with Andy Schutz. Or no, last dual meet I ever wrestled in Grace. Home dual
Well, that's
meet,
a pretty impressive win over Lock Haven's DJ Philman, who's a national qualifier.
Yeah.
That's a big win for him.
Yep. Kyle Shoup wins 141. Ronnie Perry won 149.
Those two switched weights, by the way. Shoup was a qualifier at 149 last year, Perry at 141. So those two switching
That's
weights.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Ronnie Perry, the guy, if we all remember, years ago, beat AJ Shop at the conference tournament.
He did.
AJ's senior year.
Yep.
And then AJ lost first round at Nationals and proceeded to basically pin everybody on the way back.
And he lost at Nationals to Caleb Richardson, who has since transferred to Old Dominion, who's now a 25, 26-year-old, 6th, 7th year senior, something like that, competing at 133 for the Monarchs. So,
yeah, he's out here, doing Thanksgiving with his grandkids and going back to college wrestling.
Clucker with the runner-up finish at 157. Clucker continues his impressive season so far. Chance dominates the competition at 165, who, by the way, cannot wait to see Chance wrestle somebody, top 10 worthy. Cannot wait to see that. And Thomas Haynes wins 285. So pretty good performance there for Lock Haven. Not sure that the competition was super strong, but not a bad weekend.
No, but quick question. Do you know what Chance's full name is? His full first name?
Chandler.
Yes. Not a well-known fact.
Yep.
So, old Chandler Marsteller getting it done.
Arizona State Pit dual meet wins from what?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we kind of went through that one already.
Okay, yeah, we did.
Zanetta Maruka Shields and Kellen
Stout.
Was
that our first interview guest? Or second? I want to say that was...
First, because him and Dalton Macri were on the first episode.
That's right. Good for him.
Yeah, throwing it back.
Virginia Tech, Central Michigan duel. If I remember reading the headline right on Intermat, it said something like Virginia Tech throttles Central Michigan. I really like that. As a former sports information guy, that I could create my own titles like that, out of respect for the other team, even if it was a complete throttling or dismantling. I like to keep the adjective, what is that? A verb. I like to keep the verbs, a little nicer, but Virginia Tech throttles Central Michigan nonetheless. Solomon Chishko with a win over number 5, Justin Oliver. Chishko's had a couple close matches, by the way, this year. I saw him with a couple overtime wins over some guys I hadn't even heard of. So good to see he's still, picking off, beating top 5 guys. Zach Savatsky gets a bonus point win over Central Michigan 84. I'm not even sure. I think it's a freshman. Is it Cordell Norfleet? Somebody like that. And then...
Nah, Norfleet's an Arizona State.
That's right. I can't remember what his name is.
Hang on.
And Andrew Dunn gets an overtime win. He's a Bethlehem Catholic product who's now at heavyweight for Virginia Tech. And while you look that up, the last dual meet to recap, Ohio State beats Kent State and Cleveland State. Pretty self-explanatory there. Luke Pletcher, 2-0 with a pin chain. Does that mean he pinned both guys? Is that what you're going with there?
No, he. So if you haven't seen this yet, well, first of all, before we get into that, the Central Michigan duel. Actually, I'm sorry, Zavatsky didn't have bonus, but he beat number 12 Jordan Ellingwood.
It is Ellingwood.
So
is that like 11-5 or something?
7-4.
7-4. Okay. Yep.
7-4. So a lot of them there points being scored.
Ellingwood's tough.
Yeah.
He used to always give our 84-pounder Deco really good matches, so he's really hard to score on. Short, stocky guy.
By the way, speaking of guys that felt like they were around forever, Jack Deco.
Yeah, I've heard that. It's because he All-American as a freshman, and then next 2 years he didn't, and then his senior year he really should have, but he ran into Gabe Dean in the quarters, lost in the Ultimate Rideout, and then dropped down and lost to Miles Martin in the Ultimate Rideout in the Blood Round. So pretty much the worst draw you could possibly conceive. But, I mean, the guy was good enough to be a 4-time All-American, but just fell short a couple times. But he was always a guy that was in the top 10 for 4 years in a row. So it does seem like he was there forever.
Yeah, and that's normally what happens. Anytime a guy really has that success early on, it feels like they're around forever.
Yep.
But anyway,
Pletcher's pin chain.
So Pletcher's pin chain. So for those that may not know, Miami football, which is completely relevant again. They're in the national title conversation. One of the things that their defense does is a turnover chain. So anytime the defense forces a turnover, whatever guy on the defense, recovers the fumble or has the interception, they go over and they've got this big gold chain with the Miami U on it. This huge chain. If you Google it, I'm sure you'll get a whole bunch of pictures. But that's their turnover chain, and it's become this huge thing in college football. Every time Miami, one of those guys has a turnover, the announcers, if they're at home, the stadium, everybody starts going crazy because the turnover chain's coming out. So Jay Jaggers, the assistant coach for Ohio State, got a pin chain made. So every time one of the Ohio State guys pins somebody, as they walk off the mat, Jaggers puts the pin chain around them. It's the same kind of thing. It's a chain. It's got the block O. It's pretty cool, man. I think it's awesome. I think our sport needs more of that stuff. People just having fun, kind of willing to laugh a little bit. So, yeah, Pletcher goes 2-0 on the weekend. Had a pin chain appearance not on the weekend, I should say on Tuesday. It was like the Thanksgiving Throwdown, they called it or something. Some gimmicky name. But Pletcher goes 2-0 with a pin. Tayshaun Campbell just keeps,
plowing through the competition.
He's just out here ending careers. 2-0, both of them were bonus. So Tayshaun just putting points on the board like you would expect him to. And I think that's pretty much it for weekend results, at least things that are really worth diving into.
Joining us on the program now, he was a 3-time state medalist for Penridge High School. He was a state runner-up. He's a Division I All-American for the Lehigh University wrestling program. Arguably the best-looking guy in Division I wrestling. Definitely got the best hair. Guy that I'm very privileged to have formerly called my teammate and now a friend, Scotty Parker. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
So this past weekend, was a big one for you guys out there at Lehigh. You had a great win over Edinboro, top 25 team, even without two of the best guys in your lineup with Darian and with Price both being out. And then Sunday, it just beat Michigan like they freaking stole something. Won 8 of 10 bouts, 27-8 team score. Beat, I think, like 3 or 4 guys ranked in the top 10 in the country. So, what's the mood been like in the room, leading up to that match and coming out of it? And, just how are you guys feeling as a program? Obviously, you got to be rolling after that weekend.
Yeah, it was a huge weekend for us, man. I think we were just pumped to go out in front of our home crowd, give them something to cheer about, and we definitely did that after this weekend. Started off a little slow Friday night. Some of the young guys stepped up, their first time in Grace, and they wrestled really hard. They got the job done. But other matches, we lost a few where we should have won, and other of our hammers just didn't really look too hot. But we got the win there, and then we had a talk with the team, talked with the coaches. We said put Friday night past us, even though Edinboro is a tough squad. We wanted to bounce back and look a lot better for Sunday, and I think the guys responded really well. We felt pretty good.
Yeah, man. And you mentioned the young guys. So you've got a few, 3 freshmen in the starting lineup. Luke Karam, Jordan Wood, and Jacobson were all in the lineup Sunday against Michigan. How have those guys been doing, handling their first weekend in Grace Hall as well as their first time in the starting lineup? Yo, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, keep talking.
Yeah, okay. Jordan Wood wrestled the number 2 guy in the country, gave him all he could handle, and, Luke Karen beat a really tough kid who beat Randy Cruz last year. Jacobson seeing a hammer on top, just throwing cradles on everybody. It's been awesome to watch.
Yeah, and I got to believe those guys, they bring that same attitude in the room every night, I'm sure, right?
Oh, for sure. One of Jordan Wood, dude, he's one of the leaders on the team. He's a young guy, and he speaks up more than anybody else on the team. He gets us rolling, keeps the room light, and everybody looks up to that guy, and that's pretty special to have as a freshman.
Yeah, it really is. So you mentioned leadership, and that's one of the things that I'm really curious to hear you talk about it a little bit. So last year, the class that graduated, you had guys like Lake Gardner, Mitchell Minotti, Randy Cruz, Doug Valero was in there. You had a class full of guys that were natural leaders and that had really been part of a big part of the turnaround and kind of the new age of the program. What's it been like for you transitioning more and more into a leadership role? You're on the older end of the team now. You're one of 2 returning All-Americans. You're definitely one of the guys that people look to. What's that been like for you?
It feels weird saying that I'm one of the older guys. I never looked at myself that way, but you're right, man. I am one of the older guys now, and it's made me have to speak up a lot more, take control of the room. But I think the guys respond well to me and Darian in particular. Price speaks up a lot. He's a great leader, and I think some of the younger guys just stepping up and really taking that leadership role, whether it's vocal or not, just through their work ethic, it's pretty special.
So, last season obviously was a big one for you in a lot of different ways. You come off a red shirt and you're back in the lineup, you're up a weight, you make the finals at the Scuffle, you've got a lot of great wins during the season, and you get yourself to wrestle on Saturday on the podium at Nationals for the first time. You finish as an All-American, taking 8th. Did last season, getting yourself on the podium, did that change anything about your thought process this past summer and, the way you look at it this season after really having, obviously you always know it in your head, but really proving to yourself and to everyone that, you've wrestled on Saturday, proving that you're one of the best guys in the country. How has that changed things for you?
Definitely. It's changed a lot. I was never one of the most confident guys, and I think I've grown in that aspect a lot. I'm a lot more confident in myself and my ability. And it's also changed up just the way I look at the sport. I was pumped just to get on the podium last year, and now going into this year, I'm not trying to settle for just getting on the podium. I want to win the whole thing, and it's made me fired up. I go into the room every single day with one focus in mind, and that's being on the top of the podium in March. So that's definitely changed a lot since last year, just trying to get on the podium to being at the top, and I think it's elevated my game to somewhere that I'm not used to being at, but it's really exciting, and I'm excited to move forward in the season with it.
I agree, and that actually transitions really well because you've had a really hot start to this season. You've beaten 4 ranked guys. 3 of them I think are in the top 12 or 13. You had that win over Brock a week and a half ago. How you think that those wins have kind of validated anything for you as far as the way you've been training, the way you've been feeling, or it's just something you're just trying to prepare yourself for March?
I would say it's a little bit of both. It's hard to gauge yourself when you're wrestling the same guys in the room over and over again and just like seeing where you're at. But when you go out there on the mat and you wrestle a top 15, top 10 guy and you start putting points on them and you start putting pace on them, and it kind of validates your work ethic and just how everything's been rolling throughout the year. And but at the same on the same token, I kind of look at every match the same. Whether I'm wrestling a top 5 guy or they're not a ranked guy, I'm just going out and I'm trying to be me. So it's a little bit of both there.
The match with Brock, that whole sequence at the end there, can you kind of talk through how that whole situation happened? I've seen it and everything, but was that something you were trying to do, or were you just trying to score the next point and you just kind of wrestled into it?
Yeah, I definitely just wrestled into it. It wasn't like I had that plan, like I was trying to throw him to his back or anything. It worked out in the end, and it was awesome. But yeah, I just looked over to the corner, and I was wrestling pretty poorly up to that point, and the coaches just kept telling me, "Have fun, just open up, just score the next point," and that's what I tried to do. Try to change my mindset around a little bit. If I could close the gap, maybe lose 7-5 rather than 7-3, that would change the next time that we wrestle. But just trying to score that next point, made him react in a different way, got lucky, threw him to his back for 4, and, sometimes things work out for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. The last time you guys wrestled, Scuffle Finals last year, it's a tie match with, I think like a minute to wrestle. and you have to default. And this is kind of a two-part question. Number one, did that add a little bit more meaning to you personally to wrestling Cade this time around? And the second one was coming back off of that injury late last season. What was that process like, and how long did it take you to trust in your leg again, that you were really able to go?
Yeah, for the first part of that question, I've been thinking about that match since January of the scuffle last year. I've wanted to wrestle him, and I didn't get a chance to at nationals. And I was talking with our trainer Jack because he put me through so much rehab and stuff. And both of our mindset going into that match was like we've been waiting for this for a while. So it was cool for both of us. We shared a moment afterwards, which was kind of cool. But the second part of that, just like trusting my leg towards the end of last year, I really don't know if I trusted it at all. Even through nationals, I was taped pretty heavily, even when I came back at first, like a week or two before conferences, and I just didn't feel myself. But I kind of went out there and I showed a lot of toughness, and I just tried to battle as hard as I could. I tried not to let it affect me too much, but in the end, I know I couldn't do a lot of the things that I had originally been able to do earlier in the year. And I think that's why this year is going to be so special. Knock on wood, hopefully no more injuries, but if I can stay healthy, it's going to be pretty awesome.
How did you get yourself through, you win an EIWA title, you get yourself on the podium at NCAAs. How do you mentally, not even just the physical difficulties of it, how do you mentally get yourself through all of that wrestling on one leg?
I think you have to trust in your coaches. You have to trust in your support system around you. And I've been blessed to have, great coaches around me who, they constantly build me up all the time. They're in my ear saying that I can win a national title every single day. And, if they keep saying that, you tend to believe it. And, when times get tough, I just turn to my family, and, they really help me through it. I was down for a while, and whenever I'm down, whenever I've always been down in my life, I've been able to turn to them, and they've been able to get me through it. And I think that's an edge that I have over some people. I just have an amazing support system that no matter what, I can go into every match and be like, win or lose, my family's still going to love me at the end of the day. So, if I have that, then I don't have any worries going out on the mat.
Yeah, that's awesome. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, right?
I totally agree.
So you spoke about your support system, and, obviously you have that in spades with your family, and you mentioned the coaching staff. So not long after NCAAs, that article gets published about Coach Santoro.
Yeah.
What?
Wild.
Yeah, trust me. I mean, you and I talked. You know what my thoughts and feelings were on that.
Yeah.
What were things like internally when that was all going on? Not just with that article, but then there was all of the speculation about the Pitt program and that job opening up. What were things like internally with the team and, with Hughes and Brad and everything?
It was really tough for a good couple weeks there. We were all worried, to be honest. And it was in the back of my mind almost every day, like, what if I don't have this guy coming back next year? We counted on him so much. And I think we just had to trust in him and in the words that he said to us. He brought us in for a team meeting after last year and said he was going to do what was best. But I think we always trusted in him, and just we knew he was going to come back. I just had a gut feeling that he was going to come back. But that doesn't take away from how tough it was on all of us. I mean, we were all talking almost every single day. Like, guys, there were talks of guys thinking about transferring if he didn't come back, and it wasn't healthy for the team. But I'm glad it got resolved as quickly as it did.
Yeah. I think I'm on board with you there. I'm definitely glad Coach Pat stayed. So lineup changes. We talked about the freshmen. moving into the lineup and replacing some guys. Obviously, there were some in the upper weights. There were some weight changes. So with Cutler moving up 2 weights and Price moving up 1, talk a little bit about, because that's not an easy thing to do. You know that. You've gone through that process.
No, not at all.
Of what moving up a weight's like. And I mean, you and I, both of us, when we did it, we had a full season to redshirt and build.
Exactly.
What have those 2 guys showed? Why do you think they're able to move up? I mean, Cutler went up 2 weights and, Price went from 74 to 84, which is no small jump. What do you think lets those 2 guys do that and still be top 4 or 5 guys in the country?
I think they're freak athletes, man. They trust and believe in themselves more than anyone, and no matter what weight they're at. And I think it's just healthier for them both to have moved up anyway. Cutler obviously was really struggling last year, and it showed when he couldn't make weight at conferences. But I think the fact that them not worrying about their weight so much makes them better wrestlers. If they were to go, like, say Cutler drops to 65 or Price went 74, they'd just be focusing on their weight too much rather than wrestling and getting better every single day. And I think that's what's changed in their heads. And when you focus on wrestling rather than losing weight, you tend to get better. And I think they just keep improving every single day. And the weight jump, it's a little bit of a strength disadvantage at first, but I think they're getting used to it, and it doesn't seem like a problem for them at all. They just beat top 5 guys, and they look good doing it. So I think it's best for the team as well. I mean, that would have pushed a lot of guys out of the 65 spot, and we have a lot of depth there. So I think it opened up 65, and they're fitting into the weight class really well.
Do you think there's a stronger pair of back-to-back teammates in America than Cutler and Price?
I don't think so. I've just been I haven't wrestled either of those guys, but from talking to the other guys on the team, it's like anytime that we talk about someone wrestling Price or Cutler, they're like, dude, I don't want to wrestle this guy. He's way too strong. And like, I don't even know how they can get that strong. I'm in the same weight room as them, and it's like watching them move weight is it's so impressive.
Yeah, and like the finish that Price had on Abinator, where Abinator beats the shot, gets him all the way up to a body lock, and Price just threw him down like a little kid.
Yeah, man, his power is unbelievable. It's like you think he's dead to rights, and then he comes out of nowhere and he's just tossing guys around. It's something special, man.
Yeah, you said it right. They're freaks. Another guy in your guys' lineup that's an athletic freak in his own right. Darian. So,
yeah,
you've gotten to follow Darian in the lineup as far as a 25-33 punch for the last couple of seasons. He's been on the team the entire time you've been there. What's it been like to have a teammate like Darian, to be able to follow a guy that won a national title, not just as a workout partner, but as somebody to kind of learn from and a little bit when he's wrestling in national finals, everybody experiences a little bit of it. You go through a lot of the same emotions. What's it been like to learn from him and have him as a teammate?
It's been awesome, man. It's been really cool. I think it just shows everyone on our team, and myself included, that it's possible, and the work that we're putting in is going to pay off someday. I mean, I'm in the same room that he is every single day, doing the same stuff that he is, and he won a national title. So, I think that makes it seem like a reality for me as well. And just you couldn't find a better guy than him. He's a great leader and a great friend, and he's always willing to help. He's trying to teach me always, and just being able to scrap with him in the room every day it's pretty cool. He's a freak. Like, athletically, he's a freak, man. He does some of the craziest stuff I've ever seen, and it's cool to be around, cool to learn from him, and he's also like surprisingly strong as hell. You don't think he is when you look at him, but you get a hold of him in the room and it's like, wow, all right, like there's no wonder why this dude won a national title. He's the real deal. So it's been really cool to work out with him and just to learn from him.
Yeah, he is a surprisingly powerful human being.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, you guys have the Penn State duel coming up in a couple weeks at the PPL Center. Which that's going to be awesome for a lot of different reasons. You know, 2 top 5, top 10 teams, the venue and everything. That's going to be exciting. But what events looking forward, you know, short of the conference tournament and national tournament, what dates do you personally kind of have circled on the calendar, if any?
I mean, in particular, the Cornell duel. We lost to them a couple years in a row, and I wasn't able to wrestle last year, so I'm looking forward to that one. That's huge, and to beat them in their place is going to be really cool. I'm also looking forward to traveling out to Arizona State. I haven't made a trip out west yet, so you know their team is really solid as well. So we can make another statement out there, and I think that's exciting. And you know, again, the scuffle. There's great competition down there, and the way that it ended last year, I'd like to turn that around and, you know, be standing on top of the podium injury-free this year, so that would be cool.
Team-wise, Lehigh Wrestling, what's the goal this season?
Team trophy at the end of the year. We've been talking about it for ever since I got here, and, you know, we've never been able to make it happen at the end of the year, and I think we've had a lot of great teams since I've been here, but this team just seems really special in its own right. And I think, you know, we have a lot of young guys, but we also have a lot of veteran leaders that can carry this team. And, you know, I think we have all the talent there, and we showed that we did wrestle in Michigan this past weekend. And if we put it all together like we did there, I think it's a no-brainer that we can come home with a team title in March.
Personally, I think this is an easy question to answer, but it's worth asking anyway. For Scotty Parker individually, what's the goal, man?
National championship, man. National championship in 133 pounds captain this year.
Absolutely. And my last question, what's something, if you could have talked to Scotty Parker from, you know, what would it be, 4 years ago, before you got to Lehigh, to better prepare yourself, or maybe just something that you never even thought about that was part of college wrestling or part of Lehigh life, you know, what's the one thing that you've really learned, or that you wish you could tell your younger self to better prepare yourself for college wrestling?
I think in high school I was really focused on the wins and losses, and you know, since being in college, talking with our coaches, talking with all the older guys on the team as I've grown up, it's just not to worry about the wins and losses. And I think back then I didn't enjoy the sport as much. Every single day is fun. Win or lose, I'm having a good time, and I think that's what matters.
Yeah, I could not agree more, man. It's a special thing, especially to wrestle for a program like Lehigh, and you know, wrestle a place like Grace Hall, that place had to be absolutely insane Sunday.
It was electric on Sunday. It was crazier than I've ever seen it, man. You should have been there. It was awesome.
Yeah, I told you should have. I was actually coaching it. I was coaching our youth club kids at a dual meet thing on Sunday, and Akerley and I are sitting beside each other in the chairs, and I had my phone streaming the match between our chairs, and anytime there was any stoppage in the matches on the mat, both of us are sitting there staring at the phone.
That's awesome, man. I can picture Mason Beckman going crazy at his phone.
Oh, the even worse one was the Edinburgh match, when I'm sitting there during a wedding ceremony with my phone on silent while somebody's taking their vows, and I'm trying to stay quiet because I'm watching you pin the number 10 guy in the country.
That's a true fan right there. I respect the hell out of that. That is a true fan. Thanks, brother.
Absolutely, buddy. Well, hey, man, I appreciate the hell out of you coming on. You know, you as well as the entire Lehigh Wrestling program. As an alum, could not be prouder of the way you guys represent Lehigh, as well as PA Power in general. You guys are awesome. Keep doing your thing. Go win that national title, man. There's you got no bigger fan other than your family. No bigger fan than what you have right here, as well as in all of us at PA Power. So thank you, Scotty.
Dude, thanks for having me on. I appreciate this support, and I look forward to seeing you, dude.
Yeah, I'll see you. I'll be at the Penn State duel, so I'll see you soon, man.
Awesome. I'll see you soon. Thanks, buddy.
All right, take it easy.
All right, you too.
Yeah, let's briefly look at what's coming up this weekend. There's actually not a whole lot with it being the holiday weekend. We got the Matttown Open on Sunday. Hard to keep track of what teams are at that tournament anymore. It always seems like it's, a lot of the PSAC schools, and then you got like Kent State and maybe some D2 schools, Kutztown or Bloom or something like that, which are, Bloom's D1 and Kutztown's in the PSAC, but you get where I was going. Iowa wrestles Ryder on Friday. That I did not know. That's a little surprising. I haven't seen those two square off in a dual meet in a while. So we'll have Mikey Kemmer against Clagan, assuming Clagan actually wrestles. He defaulted to 6th at the Keystone Classic, so not sure if we'll see him or not.
True.
And then Caleb Young against Chad Walsh could be interesting at 165. Obviously Walsh the heavy favorite, but I'd like to see how our PA guys will fare against some top-level competition there. Arizona State takes on South Dakota State on Sunday. Josh Shields will have another top 20 foe in number 14, Luke Zilverberg. We got Mizzou taking on Virginia Tech on Saturday. That could be a good one. Probably the marquee matchup there. You'd have to think Solomon Shishko against number 18, Grant Leith, who is a Missouri native, went to Duke, didn't really, I guess, enjoy the team or the, fit in the lineup where he wanted to. So he transferred back, and he's since been having a decent year for Missouri, ranked 18th. And then lastly, West Virginia will take on Nebraska on Saturday. Any matchups there? Hopefully we just like to see Zeke get back on track. It's about all I can think of when I think of West Virginia.
Yeah, that's about it. Like you said, there's not a whole lot to dive into with things that are coming up this weekend. The Matttown Open, that was always one that just wrestling a few days after Thanksgiving, not fun. Just not good for the brand. It'll be, hopefully Chisco keeps rolling against Leith. Shields and Zoverberg, again, Shields seems that he's turned that corner, so hopefully he gets another big win there. By the way, South Dakota State, talk about a program that has come a long way.
Hashtag
the job
get
Bono,
jacked.
Yeah, they have
Best
done
hashtag in
an
college
awesome
wrestling.
job. Well, and they've done such a great job with not just building the program, but building excitement around it, with stuff like the hashtags and their social media presence. So South Dakota State, you're doing it right. They're killing the game.
I have to think AJ had a hand in that one. Good job, AJ.
Yes, absolutely did. And any dual meet in Brookings that's home for them, the environment in that place I've heard is absolutely bonkers. So that's awesome. South Dakota State's building, not PA power. So we hope Shields shellacks Zilverberg. But either way, it's awesome to see any program like that, build up the way that they have. You mentioned Mizzou VT, West Virginia, Nebraska. The only other thing that's really going on this weekend is Under 23 Worlds, which doesn't have a PA representative, but, anytime guys and girls are out there representing the United States, we're going to mention it. Really excited to see how that all plays out. The main thing that relates most directly to college wrestling for us is men's freestyle. So to run through the men's freestyle lineup, you've got Dayton Fix, Mitch McKee. By the way, Mitch McKee wrestles in the same weekend. Seth Gross, Cade Brock, hops on a plane and goes to Under 23 Worlds. That kid loves to compete. That is so cool to me. Yeah, and that's the kind of mentality you should have. Just like, hey man, let's just go scrap. But Fix, McKee, Joey McKenna, Richie Lewis, Isaiah Martinez, Sammy Brooks, Ty Walls, and Michael Kroles. The only real PA representative is Teague Moore, who's the coach, North Allegheny native. So
you'd have to think American won't have a match this weekend then.
Yeah, you're right. They definitely don't. I can't imagine that they would let their head coach go if they've got a duel. So, yeah, you're probably right there. I didn't even cross my mind to look at that. But good luck to all those guys. And hopefully they bring back some
hardware,
some shiny gold hardware.
That brings us to perhaps the most important item on the menu and the last item on the menu, guys. Me and Mason have had this plan for at least a week or two. We've been talking about this. The Thanksgiving versus Christmas debate. Mason, you went on a 5-minute rant at the end of our last segment right after we stopped recording, and I just had to get this out there to the public. I want you to go on your rant and just don't hold anything back.
All right, so every year after Halloween is over, it's like when you're in the car on the way back from Super 32, it's Christmas time already. No, it's Thanksgiving. Everybody forgets about Thanksgiving, and I don't understand why. Thanksgiving is probably my second favorite holiday. It's definitely the second most American holiday behind the 4th of July. It's an awesome holiday because you get to eat a bunch of great food. There's always football on. If you are of age, day drinking is socially acceptable, which is awesome. That's like one of the best things in life. So I don't understand why everybody just skips over Thanksgiving and goes straight to Christmas. Does it suck if you have to wrestle a couple days after? Yeah, but like use your head. It's not that hard. Like you can eat, you should keep fluids in your system and go work out. You should never just not eat Thanksgiving. If you're doing that, you're doing it wrong. Please just, I don't know if I should tell you to do less or do more, but either way around, do it, right? Eat Thanksgiving. Just don't gorge yourself. I love Thanksgiving. Family gets together. The weather's always better than it is on Christmas. There's always a little turkey bowl action. You know, you get some 45-year-old men playing football. Somebody inevitably gets hurt. Maybe cause a little bit of CTE. Not good. But I love Thanksgiving. I just don't understand why it gets skipped over.
I think it's a combination of things, but I think number one, it's at least for me personally, and I know I'm not anywhere near alone on this thought. It's sandwiched in between two of the best times of the year. October is the best month of the year, hands down. Fall, wrestling season starts. Halloween's a great holiday. Everyone loves it. The season changes. I mean, the weather's great. My birthday's in October. That's just for me personally. But anyway, October's a great month. Everyone loves it. Everyone feels good. It's all that pumpkin spice stuff and, the whatever. And then you got December, everyone's favorite time of the year when it's, the Christmas spirit's out there. The holidays are coming up. You get off work a lot, you get off school, the kids. It's sandwiched right in between those two. It's almost like you want to go straight from October to Christmas. You don't want to have to get stuck with Thanksgiving in the middle of it. That's one thing I'll say. Number two, where was I going with this? I think Thanksgiving for wrestling in general, which I know you just kind of talked about this, but Thanksgiving is such a bittersweet thing for wrestling, especially when you're in college, because I don't know about you. You lived in PA when you went to school in PA, but for us, I don't think there was one. There was maybe one in the whole 5 to 7 years I was there where the team got off for Thanksgiving and was able to go home. And the one time we did, I didn't do it because it was a 6-hour drive and I had practice the day before and the day after. So, I mean, it almost is a bittersweet thing. It's like they're dangling this, quote, holiday in front of you with all this great food and all this fun. But one, you don't really get to eat the food. And if you do, I mean, you can eat some, but it's just going to mean another workout for you. And number two, it's just going to be more workouts and it's more fun that you're not going to get to have because everyone else is going home and having a great time. And you're stuck there. I mean, you're stuck in dreary Norfolk, Virginia in sweats, running down Terminal Boulevard. So that's at least my opinion.
Well, first of all, I lived almost as far away from home as you did. So Lehigh's like 5 hours from home for me. So it wasn't the simplest thing to get myself home. But first of all, you have the same issue with Christmas because we went to Midlands 3 days after. Or Scuffle, like 5 days after. So the whole cutting weight issue, normally we actually had more time after Thanksgiving because we wouldn't compete that weekend normally. So we'd have like a week to get your weight back down. Whereas Christmas, you'd eat Christmas dinner, then you'd hop in a car on the 26th, and you'd fight through a freaking blizzard on Interstate 80 to get yourself back to Bethlehem, and then you'd go back to practice. Hughes would, make a game out of it, try to score 100 points on one of us, and then you'd go to Midlands or the Scuffle, which, by the way, Midlands, awesome tournament, freaking miserable trip.
True. Well, okay, you're right. All the stuff I said probably could allude to Christmas too, but I don't know. Something about Christmas, there's just more of a, you get more time off. The holiday is just more special, especially if you're a religious person. Just like the presents and like giving people stuff. I don't know. It's just like for me, it's a more family oriented feeling. Like Thanksgiving, I just feel like my Thanksgiving has never been that special. Maybe that's my issue, but you just kind of eat food and then it's over and it's like, that's all it was.
Exactly. That's the best possible kind of holiday.
But if you're not eating, it's not that great. All right,
you
that's
eat
what I'm saying.
Food and watch
All right,
football.
Clearly we're not going to agree on this, but we wanted to throw out the topic and throw out each side of our argument for the fans. Maybe you can go ahead and give us your feedback. as we always say at the end of our segments, we welcome all the feedback that we can get. So you guys want to go ahead and chip in your opinion here on the Thanksgiving Christmas debate. Mason, sorry to say, but I kind of feel like I'm going to be the winner here. But hey, maybe we'll start like a Twitter. Maybe you should start a Twitter poll and we'll see.
You're all un-American. And look, my thing is not comparing Thanksgiving to Christmas. I'm not saying one versus the other. My point is appreciate Thanksgiving. Enjoy every day that you get. It's a nice family holiday. You get some good food. You get to watch footy ball on a Thursday, all day on a Thursday. Again, if you're of age, day drinking is acceptable, which is incredible.
See, I don't drink either, so that's another thing. That's why not special.
Yeah, well,
not special.
Well, I enjoy a good adult beverage, tastefully with discretion. But awesome holiday. Get to see a ton of family. Get to watch football all day. The weather's still good, somewhat, as opposed to Christmas where it's normally getting like super cold. Appreciate Thanksgiving, man. Pilgrims, they came over. They had the
history
whole
lesson with Mason. All right,
the whole feast with the Native Americans. Anything that may have happened after that in the way of bringing disease over, we're not going to discuss. That's not the point right now. It's the second most American holiday. Appreciate it. If you don't like Thanksgiving, you're un-American.
Okay, well, as we said, Mason's going to start a Twitter poll, and we're going to see what you guys have to say. But that being said, that's going to wrap it up for us here at the PA Power College Podcast. Thanks for dialing in. I'm Tristan Warner. Find me on Twitter at WarnTriz, and Mason Beckman, you can find him at Beck_Diggity Thanksgiving. Visit PAPowerWrestling.com for all your wrestling needs, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at PAPowerWrestle, and go ahead and friend us on Facebook. Till next time, stay classy, wrestling fans. Beautiful. Beautifully done.